All right, so taking a look at these problems. So for this first problem, you're trying to find where this line and this line intersect on a graph. So if they're on a graph, somewhere these two lines intersect, and that's what we're looking for. And we're looking for the x coordinate of that. So you have two options. One, if you have a graphing calculator, you could go to the graphing calculator and you could put these graphs in. You would have to solve each of them for y in order to put them into the calculator. Or we could look at this and say, okay, this equation right here, I see y doesn't have a number in front of it. So I'm going to solve this equation here for y. So I have negative 2x plus y equals 10. I'm going to get y by itself. So add 2x to both sides. So I get y equals 10 plus 2x. Now I'm going to take this. This is what y equals. We know they intersect at some point, so that means that they have an x and a y in common, meaning this x right here and this x right here represent the same number, and this y right here and this y right here represent the same number. So I'm going to take all of this, what y equals, and I'm going to plug it in for that y right there. So then I'm going to have 2x plus 4. Again, instead of this y, I'm going to write down what y equals. 10 plus 2x, and all this equals 0. So now it's just a basic algebra problem. So we're going to distribute. So we have 40 plus 8x equals 0. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So 2x and 8x make 10x plus 40 equals 0. I'm going to move the 40, so subtract 40 from both sides. So 10x equals negative 40. Divide by 10, and we get x equals negative 4. So when these two lines intersect, x equals negative 4. So your answer is D. All right, the next one. Which of the following inequalities has a solution set corresponding to the bold portion of the number line below? So if I look at this, this is showing me x. So x is where it's shaded. It's shaded to the left, so it's saying that all of my x's are less than or equal to 2/9. Okay, so that means 2/9 is my biggest number. Everything else is smaller. So I need to solve each one of these for x and see which one looks like this. So divide by a negative. When we divide by a negative, we flip the sign. All right, well, this is positive. So anything that's going to give me a negative 2/9 is not going to be the answer. So here, if I divide, that's going to give me a negative 2/9, so that can't be it. Here, a negative divided by a negative becomes positive. So it flips and looks like this, which is exactly what we have here. So your answer is C. For number 3, we're multiplying and simplifying. Okay, so this one's a lot more complicated. You might not have seen this before. So what we're gonna do is kind of keep these separate. This down here, this x squared minus 1, that actually factors into x minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, and that all goes back to just factoring rules. Okay, then if I look here, I have an x minus 1 and an x minus 1 here, so these two cancel. All right, and then if I have x to the 12th and x squared, if you're dividing with the same letter and they have exponents, you just subtract the exponents. So this would be x to the 10th on top, and then we have x plus 1 on the bottom. So the correct answer here is B. Number 4, we're multiplying. So anytime we have squared, we take this, what's in parentheses, and we set it next to each other. So 8x minus 8y times 8x minus 8y. So we're going to do FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. So 8x times 8x is 64x squared. 8x times negative 8y is negative 64xy. Negative 8y times negative x is negative 64xy. And then negative 8y times negative 8y is a positive 64y squared. So these two in the middle are the exact same, so you can combine those. They both have just xy. So if I subtract those, I get negative 128xy, and then we just keep everything else. You can't combine the other two because they're different terms. So here is the correct answer. So D is your right answer. So again, we FOILed. So you take the first one times each thing in the second set of parentheses. Then you take the second one times each thing in the second parentheses, okay? All right, number 5. So on number 5, we're solving for x. So we're just trying to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. So I get 5x equals 15 minus 2y. And then I divide everything by 5. So here, let me rewrite it down here. 15 divided by 5 minus 2. So those cancel. I have x equals 15 divided by 5 is 3 minus 2y over 5, because this doesn't simplify to anything. So now it's just a matter of looking at my answer choices and trying to figure out which one that is. Notice that this right here is negative 2/5 y, because the minus sign in front. So your term always takes the sign that's in front of it. So the correct answer here is A. For number 6. All right, so we're factoring out, so we're going to take each portion. So take the top. So we have x to the 12th plus 9x to the 10th. All right, we look at these two terms. What do they have in common? Well, they both have x, and they both have at least 10 x's, since this is the smallest amount, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide out, divide out x to the 10th. So I'm going to take x 10th to the out. So if I take x to the 10th out of this, I'm left with x squared. And if I take x to the 10th out of this, I'm just left with 9. Okay, so that's the top. The bottom, we have x to the 3rd plus 9x squared. These have x in common, and they have x squared in common. So I'm going to take out an x squared, so that would leave me with x plus 9. Okay? All right, so then I'm going to stack these on top of each other. So there's the top. The bottom is this. So the only thing that I can do here is, if I look, I can subtract these, right? Because they both have bases of x. So I subtract the exponent. So 10 minus 2 gives me 8. And then x squared plus 9 all over x plus 9. And you just leave it exactly like that. So the correct answer here is D. All right, over on the back. So these are some just calculator work. You can just do this straight on your calculator. So this is 5 minus 4 minus 9 would give me negative 5. And 5 minus 4 would give me negative 1. I'm sorry, positive 1. Sorry. So negative 5 over positive 1 is just negative 5. So I have 5 minus negative 5. So the correct answer on that is going to be B, 10. Again, you can do that straight on your calculator too. A boy only has dimes and quarters in his piggy bank. If he has 60 coins worth $12.45 altogether, how many quarters does he have in his bank? So x equals the number of dimes, and y equals the number of quarters. Okay, so this is a system of equations. So these are the number of coins. It tells me, so I need to create two equations here. One is the number of coins I have, so this right here, and one is the amount of money I have. So the first equation, if I take the number of dimes plus the number of quarters, I have 60. Then, so if this is the number of dimes, so I take the number of dimes times how much a dime is worth, and it's worth 10 cents, plus how much a quarter is worth times the number of quarters I have, and that equals $12.45. So in this one, this is just the number of coins I have. This one's all about what each coin is worth and how much money I have. So this is a system. I'm going to take this first one. So I'm trying to figure out how many quarters. So that's my y. So I'm going to solve this one for x. So I can plug it into my x. So I only have the letter y in this equation. So if I take this one and I solve it for x, I'm going to subtract y from both sides. So this would be x equals 60 minus y. Take all of this and I'm going to plug it. I'm sorry, I just did that backwards. I want to solve this for, no, that's right. Okay, so plug all this in for x. So I have 0.1 times 60 minus y equals, sorry, not equals, plus 0.25y equals $12.45. Again, number of coins, how much the coins are worth. So I solve this first equation for y, and I plugged it in where, I'm sorry, solved this first equation for x, took that and plugged it into this x. So here we're going to do distributive property. So I'm just going to take 0.1 times 60, which gives me 6, minus 0.1y plus 0.25y equals $12.45. So again, I just distributed that. I have like terms, so negative 0.1 plus 0.25 gives me 0.15. Y equals 1245. Subtract 6 from both sides. Sorry, that should be positive right there. There we go. So if I subtract 6 from both sides, that would give me $6.45. Divide that by 0.15, and I get y equals 43. So again, y was the number of quarters, so 43 is the number of quarters I have, so the answer is B. For number 9, you're just solving for x. So anytime you see two fractions, you have an equal sign in between, that means that you can cross multiply. So I'm going to take this right here, so 3 times x, so 3x equals this right here, 9 times 6x minus 9. So I have 3x equals, I'm going to distribute this, 54x minus 81. So I got to get the x's together on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 54x from both sides. So I have 3 minus 54, that gives me negative 51x equals negative 81. Divide each side by negative 51. X equals, so I have 81 over 51 because negative over negative. Now on your calculators, so if I do 81 divided by 51, I press enter, it gives me this long decimal. So then I can go over here and I can hit math, enter, enter, and it gives me a fraction, and that's 27 over 17. So my answer is C. Number 10, we're solving for x. So again, just get x by itself. So subtract 56 from both sides. Negative 7x equals 2 minus 56, which is negative 54. And then divide by negative 7. Negative over a negative, again, so I'll show it here. If I do negative 54 divided by negative 7, hit enter, and then I hit math, enter, enter, and that gives me 54 over 7. So the answer is B. All right, number 11. So this is a quadratic, okay? So you have to use quadratic formula. Now quadratic formula is up on my wall, so it'll stay there, so you'll see that. But here's the quadratic formula. Okay, so the first coefficient is a, b, and c, okay? We start with this b squared minus 4ac. So my b is negative 1 squared minus 4, my a is 1, and my c is negative 1. So these numbers are pretty easy because they're all just kind of ones. Now, when you do negative 1 squared, you got to put it in parentheses. So this is just 1 minus 4 times 1 times negative 1 gives me negative 4. So 1 minus negative 4 is the same thing as 1 plus 4, which is 5. So right here under the radical, I'm going to put a 5. So I have negative b. So b is negative. So here, let's do this. A is 1, b is negative 1, and c is negative 1. So when I do negative b, I flip the sign. So this is 1 plus or minus the square root of 5 all over 2 times a. So it looks like that. So this plus minus means 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2 and 1 minus the square root of 5 over 2. So if I look, I have here, it's going to be this one right here, C. Okay? And then finally, we're multiplying this. So again, we're using that FOIL. Okay, so I have x squared minus y squared times x to the 8th plus y to the 8th. So multiply this. So when you're multiplying, they both have x and they both have exponents. You add the exponents. So 2 plus 8 gives me 10. Then I do x squared times y to the 8th. Well, I can't combine those because they're different letters. So this is just plus x squared y to the 8th. Then the next one, I start here with my negative y squared. So negative y squared times x to the 8th. Again, different letters, so I can't combine them. So this is a minus because it's minus here. Y squared x to the 8th. And then finally, negative y times a positive y is negative. And then we have y squared and y to the 8th, so you add those. Okay? So when I look at my answer choices, I notice that I have x to the 10th to start with and y to the 10th at the end. So I see both of those, but this one doesn't have any middle terms, so this one's out. This is x to the 16th, so that's out. X to the 10th could be it. This is x to the 16th. So now I have two choices here. So I'm looking for x squared y to the 8th, so x squared y to the 8th, x to the 8th y squared. So this is backwards. So my correct answer here is going to be E. Okay? All right, good work, guys.